Hey everyone, welcome back to MuseThemes.com. My name is Ashton, and today we're going to cover our Hover Gallery widget from Muse. As you can see, this is a unique widget that reveals an image when you hover over text content. We can see a stylish shift every time I move my mouse over a new trigger. In the demo here, we see that we have 4 sections of text, and if I hover over any of these sections of text, we see a different image displayed. Now, the thing that makes this especially unique is that the image that's displayed fills the entire space of the widget rather than appearing just behind the text. So this widget technically has elements of a slideshow as well as a gallery. In this demo, we have a 4-section grid filling the whole screen. However, this is not a full screen widget. You can place this widget anywhere on a page with other content above and below it. You can use it in a row, a single column, or however fits your project best. Let me jump into Muse and we'll take a look at a project file here that I have opened. And I've removed the widget entirely from the page so we can set this up from scratch. Now this project is configured at the standard 960 pixel breakpoint. This widget will work well at any desktop breakpoint size, but keep in mind that this widget is intended for desktop use only, since the functionality is totally dependent on hovering, which you can't do on mobile or tablet. So let's jump into our library and we'll drag the widget out and drop it onto our page. And I'm going to drag it to the top of the page and we'll set it to full browser width in order to make this gallery full screen. And I'm going to set the height of the widget container to about 800 pixels so that it fills the height of the display. But as I mentioned earlier, this is not a full screen widget, so you need to set the height appropriate for your site or content. For this tutorial, I'm going to recreate what we have in the demo. So if we jump into our settings panel, let's take a look at our options. There are quite a few settings available in this widget, so hang in there and I'm going to go through them as thoroughly and efficiently as I can. First option we have is shape. Now, as you may have noticed in the demo, let me switch back really quick. There is a triangle in the center of the gallery. And in the widget, we have triangle selected. And as I transition from image to image, we can see that there's also a zoom effect built in, as well as a color overlay. Now the overlay is applied by the widget, and the triangle shape is a mask where the overlay is not applied. So inside the shape, there will always be 100% transparency, which is free of the overlay color, and outside the shape has the overlay on it. So jumping back to the widget, there are several shape options available in the shape dropdown, as well as a custom option that we're going to get into in just a second. And actually, let me go ahead and select custom shape so I can show you how to use that. And I'm going to come back to this in a second. Next up, we have gallery layout. This sets the layout for the entire widget. The grid option creates the typical gallery look, while the rows and columns option gives you a different style of layout. Now we have maximum grid columns. This sets the maximum number of columns that will be displayed. And since we want kind of 2 rows of 2 tiles each, like our demo, we'll set this to 2. Now we'll discuss the next 2 settings together, background image opacity and overlay color, since these 2 settings kind of go hand in hand. For background image opacity, this sets the opacity of the images as seen behind the overlay color. So if I set an image opacity of 1.0, that means that the images will be 100% opaque or solid. As I use lower settings, the overlay color will start to be seen on top of the images. A setting of 0.0 here means that the images are fully transparent and you will only see the overlay color. We'll set this to 0.75 for a nice medium 75% opacity. And for color, we'll set this to hex value 003642. Great. Now let's talk about that custom shape. As mentioned a moment ago, there's an option for custom shapes here, and for a custom shape, we'll need to enter a little snippet of code for a clipping mask. And to make this easier, we've provided a link right here to an online shape generator. So let's give this a click. Now here on the Clippy site link, we can see that there are a whole bunch of shape options here on the right, and when we pick a shape, let me grab this, this close X symbol. When we select it, we can see it now in the editor here on the left. And we can even grab any of these nodes in the editor and drag them to adjust the shape. You can even create all new shapes by using the editor here. For now, I'm going to jump to the circle shape. Now, since the circle will be a little bit large for our purposes, we'll grab this node right here and we'll size the circle down smaller. Now below here in the editor, we'll find the code. And as we change the size of the circle, we can see the code changing below too. So let me set the size of the circle down to about 20%. That'll do. Now let's copy the code snippet, starting right here with the name of the shape, followed by the values. Now we only want the code between the colon and the semicolon, so we're just trimming off the beginning and end here. And now we're going to paste the code in our custom shape field inside of our widget in Muse. Perfect. Now we're going to shift our attention down here to our tile sections. Now there are 8 of them total available here in the panel. A tile is one section of the grid, and this allows us to load our image, enter our text content, and control alignment and padding. And every tile section is the same. So we'll quickly do 4 of them right here so we can build a working gallery. So starting with number 1, which will be the top left tile. Our first option here is background image. So we'll load in our first image here. I have an image here of Bali, bali-1.jpg. Great. Now we'll enable our title, subtitle, and button. And we can omit description for now, but it is an option that's available to you here. For this title, we'll enter Bali. For subtitle, we'll enter Indonesia. And in our button section, we'll find a few options. We have link, which is where we'll enter our link URL, but for our example right now, we can leave this alone. Link label is the button text, so right here we can enter something like book now. And then link target. This allows us to set whether the link opens in the same window or a new window in the browser. Now in each tile, we can also see there are a bunch of options here that will allow you total control over the placement of your text content, your title, your subtitle, your description, and your button. And I'll explain the key settings here and how they work together. The internal content width setting is important. This sets the width of the container within the tile. So as we mentioned earlier, a tile is one section of a grid. So in our demo, we have 4 tiles. And within a tile, there is a container in which the content will be. So by reducing this from the default of 100%, we are now narrowing the container for the text in the tile. And this is useful when you need to align the text or when you have long description text. Some of the settings below, like content horizontal alignment, won't work properly unless you set this content width to something smaller. So let's set this to 50%. Now we have content vertical alignment. This aligns the content top, center, or bottom in the tile. For our example here, for the whole widget, we want all of our content to appear near the center of the page. And since this is our top left tile, we want the content to appear in the bottom right position. So we'll set this to bottom. And then content horizontal alignment, of course, sets the content to the left, center, or right. However, as I just mentioned, you need to reduce the internal content width for this to work as you'd expect. So we'll set this to right. So we got it at the bottom right now. And then content text alignment. This is a standard text alignment setting like you'd find in any text editor, and we can keep this set to center. Now we have tile, top, bottom, left, and right padding. Now these padding settings allow us to fine-tune the padding of the content. The default settings here are fine, except we'll want to set the tile right padding to 0, since we want that content to be close to the center of the page. Okay, so now that we've explained all the settings within a tile section, I'm going to quickly run through tiles 2 through 4 so we can finish our example and preview it. So for tile 2, let's load in our next image. We have Rarotonga-1.jpg. For title, I'm going to put Rarotonga. For subtitle, we'll enter Cook Islands. We'll disable the description. For button, we'll label it with Book Now again. And down here, internal content width, we'll make 50%. Now for this tile, we want bottom vertical alignment and left horizontal alignment. And center text alignment again is fine. And since we want the text to be at the very bottom left of this tile, we'll make the tile left padding to 0 pixels. Okay, for tile 3, we'll upload our next image. We have Tahiti. And for title, we'll put Bora Bora. For subtitle, we'll put French Polynesia. We'll disable our description. For button, we'll label it Book Now again. For internal content width, we'll move it down to 50% again. Now, since this is tile 3, which is the bottom left tile, we want the text aligned to the top right of the tile. So we'll go for top for vertical alignment and right for horizontal. And then for text, we can put center again. And we'll make the tile right padding down to 0. And finally, tile 4, we'll add our final background image, which is Fiji. For title, we'll put Petit Levu. Subtitle, we'll put Fiji. We'll disable the description. For button, we'll put Book Now once again. Internal content width down to 50%. And since this is the last tile on the bottom right, we want top vertical alignment and left horizontal alignment. And we can keep the text centered again. And we'll make the tile left padding 0 to make everything uniform. Okay, so now that we've set up our content for all 4 tiles, we can now preview in a browser. And there we go. We can see that everything is functioning well. We can see our circle shape, our color overlay, and all of the text content that we entered. However, our text is not styled up like the product demo. I can switch over back here to the demo. We can see we have some custom fonts and such. So let's head back to the widget options one more time. And I will lastly point out that we have a huge content styling section here at the very bottom of the widget option panel. We've loaded this full of styling options to give you extensive control over fonts, colors, sizes, and even font weights and line heights. Every single setting is labeled with its exact function, so I'm not going to go through each option here, but just keep in mind that this is where you're going to go to style up all of your content for this widget. So that about covers our hover gallery widget. Thanks for sticking with me on this one, guys. If you run into any snags, don't hesitate to let us know in support. And until next time, this is Ashton with MuseThemes.com, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.